I feel resigned that there's this sort of tide coming that's rolling over everything, and it's irreversible. We humans are gradually encroaching on more and more habitat, and that's just slowly disappearing, or maybe rapidly disappearing. You just can't withhold this tide.
Okay, stomp them on. Come on up. Lucy and Wally up there? Did they get let out?
Yep.
Maybe they'll come down and see us. What do you think? We're going to see some salmon fish in there? Mm-hmm. Who else lives there?
Trout.
Trout? Before my daughter was 2, she could tell the difference between deer, caribou, elk, and moose, just by seeing some of these things. So I think those interactions, whether direct or indirect, with the natural world around us, is important to form a mindset of stewardship. Is it too cold? All right. Well, my name's Steve Clegg. I grew up here in Chilliwack, up in a small little rural community called Ryder Lake. As kids, we just get up in the morning and our parents would kick us out of the house, and you'd have all day just to play around and get lost and see what you could find. And we had a pond on the property, so we were continuously catching frogs and toads and salamanders and things. Just growing up here, they live around here. They hop around here all the time. So as kids, there'd be one, huddled in the leaves at the bottom of the basement stairs, and you just pick it up, and you take it up with you, and you'd put it back where it should be, and then you go on and do your thing. We used to have that family of toads. Remember, we used to, on our old garage, when you would open up the garage door, there'd be like mom, dad, and a couple little ones squished. Yeah. They'd wiggle their way underneath that rubber strip on the bottom of the garage door.
Yeah.
They wiggle their way every night. They wiggle in there, and you open it in the morning, and 5 of them be lined up there.
Sleeping.
When you get looking at the adult western toads, you can get right down in front of them, and they look like Arnold Schwarzenegger toads. And their arms are just massive, so that you get in front of these things, and they're very interesting things to look at.
My name's Dick Clegg. I've lived in Chilliwack, I guess, pretty near all my life. My parents had a farm, a dairy farm, on the edge of the mountain, on the edge of the valley. I now practice veterinary medicine in the whole area. Most of what I deal with is cows and horses, but the practice I'm in is strictly large animals, so we just go out to farms. Everything beyond our fields was wilderness. And we had 2 creeks in there, so that draws lots of wildlife. We had bears in our orchard, and we had deer around, and I remember as a kid with the coal trains going through and honking their whistles, and the coyotes would always wake me up at night howling. It was just normal to have wild animals around. For many years, I've had a crazy friend out in Saskatchewan who got started banding raptors in general. And I was out there at a conference one time, and he said, "Come along." And So I did, and by that influence got me looking at the local owls. I knew about the local barn owl population. I knew it was kind of an isolated population in Canada, like sort of the only one. They're really quite pretty. They are ferocious, they're great killers. But maybe partly because they're vulnerable, they're of interest.
When it's really sunny and at about, say, 11 or 12, you can just stand on the deck and go, "Hey guys," and all of a sudden the ground just starts moving. See, look at that. Look at the mass movement. My name is Debbie Patoli, and I'm a children's counselor in the Cusp. I moved to Summit Lake 18 years ago. Right now we have toadlets all over the property, so I can't get in and plant anything because there's just too many toadlets, and I'd be worried that I'm killing them if stepping on them or spading them. It makes life a little challenging, and I'm human. It's annoying when I get home from work and I'm tired and I've got to get out, check the road for my driveway for toadlets, and go walk all the way back down, get in, then slowly, head over, looking for movement, and then getting out, and it's like looking for toads and telling the dog look for toads, and yeah, so it definitely, it does impact your life, but they didn't ask us to move here. We chose to move here, so we're kind of have to be responsible for that. These animals just got so much heart. It's like they come across a barrier and they will, we've watched them try to get up rocks and they fall off and land on their backs, and they flip back over and they go at it again. They're so fragile when you watch them and you see like their skinny little legs and their little bodies, and just the stuff that they're able to do is just it's so amazing. It's not an animal that I would have thought, I would have a connection to or feel responsible for or actually even love. All these little guys, how can you not love them? They're just amazing. The way they move, and I have to say, I do find them really cute now, especially when they're starting to fatten up. Then they've got these little Buddha bellies, and they're just, they're eating, and it's like, oh, good, they're doing good. Ember, help Dad with some wood.
It makes me really happy to see that these little creatures live this incredible life at our feet. It makes me realize that I'm not the only creature here. I'm part of a vast network of living creatures, and it makes you feel humble too, right? As you start realizing that it's not just about us, it's not just about me. There's other creatures to be concerned about.
My name is Jacob DeLeese. I'm an independent wildlife biologist, and I work with species at risk, especially reptiles, amphibians, and birds. So this is a pit tag. This is the smallest one they make, and we inject them. It has no batteries in it, so it lasts forever in the toad. So it's a way of permanently marking them. And so what we're trying to do is get an idea of the population size on the lake and at these breeding sites, and if there is a decline over time. We'd like to be able to measure that. And a recent workup this year suggests that there is a population decline since we started this 5 years ago. So we have about 2,500 adults we've marked with pit tags. $88 for weight. So right now we're at Summit Lake between New Denver and the Cusp, and it happens to be right beside Highway 6, and it happens to be one of the most significant breeding sites for western toads in BC that we know of. There are old reports of so many toadlets on the highway that they would have to sand the road because it was so slippery. And that certainly hasn't happened in the last 10 to 20 years that we know of. The global population is declining. Mainly it's a range contraction issue where they've disappeared from some areas of their range in the United States, Colorado and California. Well, this is the second time we've caught this male here. From breeding site 3, we call him Stumpy. He's an amazing survivor. He's lost his right leg at the ankle level, essentially. And they use their rear legs for swimming, so he's a pretty poor swimmer, and imagine walking through the forest as well. So Stumpy here may have been injured on the highway. We see a lot of really horrific injuries, and sometimes apparently they survive. Oh, it's touching to see him just with such a zest for life and giving it a go. You know, he's not letting it stop him. So the highway mortality occurs 3 times a year, essentially, but these 3 times are spread out between April and November. So in the spring, the adults come down and they have to cross the highway to get to the breeding site. When they're finished breeding, females lay their eggs. They live in the forest, so they have to cross the highway again. So that's the second time. And then the young ones, when the eggs hatch and the tadpoles transform into little toadlets, we call them. And this is the part that most people see, is the masses of toadlets crossing the highway. So that would be the 3rd migration.
Well, growing up in Ryder Lake, it's always been known that, you know, in early summer, there's a bunch of toads that migrate.
I didn't, for the life of me, expect to see the millions, actual millions of these little creatures running up our driveway and across our pasture. There was so many at one time there, they were just in motion. Just like a carpet moving.
The whole road was just covered with them. You know, it was just masses of them. And it was really quite unique, you know, to have an animal migration actually in your neighborhood.
With the western toads in Ryder Lake, there's roads that surround their breeding wetland 360 degrees around it. So when they migrate 3 times a year, they have to cross those roads. And when they do, they get squished 3 times a year.
The worst part for me is having people drive by, because you can hear the toads popping. You can hear so many, and it's really hard to listen to that. Most people that stop are totally into helping the toads, and people that don't stop are the people that just don't care.
You guys want to see this? So this is a female, and judging by how kind of hefty she is, I think she's already laid her eggs this year. She's probably leaving the lake. It's exactly what we don't want to see. So this is a female with eggs. She's just been killed. And you can see the black pigment from the eggs. And sometimes you can even see some of the eggs. So this is really devastating to see. She could have 16 to 20,000 eggs in there. And she almost made it to the lake, but not quite. The last 24 hours, we've done some highway surveys, nighttime and daytime. We had 50 adult toad detections on the highway just during our surveys. Keep in mind, these are underestimates. Half of those were dead adults. So this is a fairly typical 24-hour period in the spring along Highway 6. 25 dead toads. Of those, 9 were adult females filled with eggs traveling towards the lake. These females can lay up to 20,000 eggs. So if you do some really simple, crude math, that's 180,000 eggs that are not going to be laid in this lake right now. Well, as far as the traffic rate goes here, we do know that it's increasing every year. So it's one thing that we can count on in the equation, is that road mortality will probably increase over time.
So perhaps local residents that have lived up here for decades and have experienced this migration every year have just thought, oh well, that's just a mortality rate, and they come back every year, and what's the problem? What they don't notice is that over time, there's less and less and less of them. And the real tragedy is this, that generational degradation of the environment is something that we don't really notice. All of us use a baseline of our awareness of the natural environment as to what it was like when we were kids. Well, every generation, there's less biodiversity, there's less natural spaces, there's less habitat areas for animals, there's less varieties of animals that we engage with on a regular basis. If we wait another 20 years, there won't be any toads here, and it won't be a problem anymore.
Western toads have a really unique way of breeding. It's quite amusing and it's interesting to watch Unlike a lot of frogs where the males produce an advertisement call and they're trying to attract the female towards them, male toads just sort of swim around within the wetland and they're kind of grabbing anything that sort of resembles or is acting like a potentially female toad. Once they find an individual, they will wrap their forearms, their front limbs, around the chest from behind the other toad. If that other toad is not a female, if it's a male, that male will let out a high-pitched sort of squeak that sounds sort of like a dog's squeaky toy. And that will let the male on his back know that he's another male. He's made an incorrect decision, and then that male can let go and then keep searching for someone else who is potentially a female. A lot of people, when they think of amphibians, they tend to think of a frog sitting on a lily pad in a wetland, and they think that the wetland is the only part of the environment that an amphibian needs. But all of our species here on the coast don't follow that sort of regime. They breed in the wetland, but then they live in the terrestrial environment, and they can move hundreds of meters to a kilometer or more away from the wetland. So protecting just the perimeter of a wetland isn't necessarily enough to meet all their habitat requirements.
These toads are an important part of the ecosystem of the forest, and the health of the forest is dependent on what they bring to the forest. If the toads don't survive and are not sustained, then the whole ecosystem will, over time, degrade and fall apart.
When a species is in trouble, it's a message. You very rarely, if ever, only lose one creature. It's like you're in an airplane and a bolt falls off and then a second one. It's a sign. If you're starting to drop species, this is a serious, serious problem. You end up with a landscape that has lost everything.
People will often ask, why should we care? Why do we care about amphibians? They seem relatively insignificant within the environment compared to other wildlife. But amphibians are interesting in the same way that salmon are interesting, in that they're living in two very different environments. And people think about them as being transporters of nutrients between those environments. When you have amphibians laying eggs in water and tadpoles are developing there, there's a lot of predators that are feeding on those individuals. And they're also feeding on things within the wetland. So all of the nutrients that those tadpoles are getting from the wetland or the lake environment, when they metamorphose and change into little toadlets, and then they're going into the terrestrial environment, now they're food for individuals within the terrestrial environment.
I was just hiking through the forest and I came across some flagging and whatnot. And then I found flagging that said Branch Road. And so I've done some silviculture work and I'm like, this is a cut block laid out. So I came home and I phoned, and the first thing we were told was it was students practicing. And then I was like, well, there's actual roads laid out and you know, with permanent sort of markers and whatnot. And then we're told, well, yeah, we're going to do some logging in there. And I said, but what about the toads? And the reply was, what toads?
Well, British Columbia is a pretty interesting place in the world. About 200 years ago, the ground cover throughout the whole territory were these magnificent, tall forests, up to 30 stories tall. And in this amazing cultural landscape and wildlife landscape were all sorts of species that grew up over thousands of years, living in this grand forest cover. By the latter half of the 19th century and into the early part of the 20th century, the forest really started to get logged. And the urban areas, as more and more immigrants came in, really started to grow. The logging, the loss of forest cover, and all the other impacts that have happened in a very short period of time have put a whole bunch of species on the brink of disappearing.
Eswael, Humantalat, Telsqui, Lita Chum, Quelstat, A Telsqualo, Quils Quetzlala. My English name is Carrie Lynn Victor. I'm from Chiam First Nation in the Upper Fraser Valley. When I think of conservation, I think of, for example, one plant that might have some kind of fruit to offer or some kind of leaf to offer as food or medicine. And I look at that plant and I say, do I need something that that plant has? Can that plant sustain and thrive if I take what I need from that plant? And if that plant has 10 berries, conservation to me would be taking 3 of those berries. And then the other berries feed multiple other species that depend on it. So there's this balance that needs to happen. We're very much living in 2 worlds, where one world says only take what you need and be humble for that, and the other world says go take it, it's yours. Set your goals and do it. And that's very empowering. While at the same time, it's very dangerous.
All this devastation we're seeing here is just the start of the logging here. Right away, we ask, what has happened to the habitat? And what's going to happen to that habitat once they start logging in there? This was all a mossy, light brush layer under the forest, good habitat for the western toad. And we feel we're going to lose that habitat and it's going to compromise the Summit Lake toad population. So by putting these roads in, we're fragmenting them, we're building barriers that are going to make it a problem for these animals to get over. We've exposed them to light where the sun and the humidity is going to be quite a bit drier. It's going to make them more difficult for these toads to get across.
There's tons of toadlets in here. Tons. This is only the second time I've been up here. I find it really hard. Yeah, it's just really hard. I'm really trashed just to know that there's toadlets in there. Look at the size of the trees. This is what we're losing toad habitat for this province, for the world, is for these little trees. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
They have a very harsh life. A lot of them die even before they get mature. Because in learning to fly and learning to find food, quite a few of them don't make it. First I got to scrounge the wood, so that takes some time because I make these boxes, as you can see, they're kind of tacky and scrambled together, but all salvaged wood. If the owl is in here nesting and a predator such as a crow comes in, lands here and looks around, you can't see anything in there. And a crow would be really intimidated to jump down in here just in case there's a mature owl there that's gonna snag him. So we haven't lost any baby barn owls to crows since I put this baffle in that stops them looking into the main chamber of the box.
Barn owls in this area are declining, and they've probably been declining pretty steadily since, I would say, the 1950s, 1960s, when there's been a change in the land use in this region. We've kind of been losing our grassland habitat steadily. That area was predominantly agricultural. There were several more barns, some hobby farms, but also some full-time farms. But since then, this area has steadily become more and more developed. With this development, there's just no habitat that's being set aside for any critters, really. It's almost like this wall that's slowly kind of moving eastwards, sort of on its way, so slowly eating up all the green space that we have.
So I've taken it upon myself to put up boxes where they can nest in some of these old barns and in creative spots where the old barns aren't anymore. Put it in a new barn somehow. It might be years before they accept that nest and a pair takes it. And I just keep checking these sites at least once a year. And I have to kind of kick myself to go and climb up the ladder and go and look in this empty box again. It's certainly exciting every time you find a new nest that's being used. This is kind of a classic old hip roof barn. So it's kind of nice that the owls like this, lots of big open space, nothing bothering them. They can get up high. And this one is vacant. So it's great for the owls. This site is great because it's very stable, good ladder to, well, a mediocre ladder to get up there, and that owl box will probably be functional for decades.
Our little spat of spring weather is over, I gather, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Gonna have a bit of a cold snap again.
Yeah, we're in for a little bit of cold stuff. How many years ago would it be that I put that box up, Elmer?
Probably 15.
I work as a large animal veterinarian, and I travel all around this area, drive all these roads, and I've been to almost every farm in this area. And I know almost all the farmers. I've lived here all my life, essentially. So I've got a bit of an in with most of these people. So if I approach them and say, no, have you got owls? And they may or may not know. But yeah, I have to approach people and explain the situation to them, and quite often they're quite happy to have it. It's become easier because I now know that these owls will eat starlings and rats. Farmers that have had a rat problem have decided that now they've got owls, they're not going to use any more rat poison because that would hurt the owls secondarily if they picked up a poisoned rat.
Since we've had the box in our barn, I mean, and now I go to the barn at night in springtime sometimes, and like it's noisy. Like these owls are flying, you know, because it's just dusk kind of, and they're just coming out and they make a racket. And I'm not gonna lie, I remember the first year Dick had the box in, I actually maybe kind of gave it to Dick a little bit because I was a bit scared, because I'd go to the barn at night and these owls would be screaming over my head and it's kind of dark and you can't see them. But you know, you get used to it after a while, and it's like growing up. You see a barn owl in your barn, and you just kind of, they've always been there, and you just sort of take them for granted almost. Yeah, until you actually start learning about them and talking to Dick and appreciating them, you don't realize that it could be something that's threatened.
Rider Lake residents got together and shared a common voice that something can be done a little bit differently to help these little toads and other amphibians get across the road safely. And that word got directed to the Fraser Valley Conservancy. They were hosting an event to bring some attention to the issue there, and that kind of made it click in my mind a little bit that, hey, this is something that's right next door. I only have to walk down the road and go lend a hand, and I think that fit quite well.
This is an 8-year-long story, and all of us were learning from the beginning. We didn't really know what to do or how to help these animals that were breeding on one side of a busy highway and living on the other side. We researched, we learned, and there are ways, of course, that can mitigate or help these migrations, but they're very expensive, and we didn't have the funding or the resources. We started off inviting volunteers to come up here on an annual basis when we saw that the migrations were taking place. And a lot of school kids would come and fill their little plastic pails and carry them across the road and let them go on the other side. It was really wonderful watching that happen, and it was a terrific education opportunity. But again, it didn't really solve any problems. There's no sustainable way that you can continue moving animals that way.
I'm Sigourney, and I'm 11 years old. I live in Chilliwack, and it's sad that toads will die when you run them over with your car, so I like to save them. I look for them whenever we're driving around, like if we're going to different places, and I know there's toads around, I always keep my eye out for them. I love how nice and round their eyes are, and I love their little bumps on their back, how they're rough bumps and how they cling to you with their little hands.
Survey checklist, pencil, tweezers, small bucket with lid.
There have been a number of projects around the province where people have come out from the community to help rescue little toadlets as they're crossing the road. And that's very important. It raises a lot of awareness.
Should I take a photo? That is definitely a toad.
Why do you say that? Let's do a photo.
Look at the bottom of it.
Yeah, we remember. So if you get in close, you guys, actually, you know what I find is really identifiable is on the bottoms of the feet, there's little tiny yellow dots. Well done. Yes. Good memory. For us as scientists, we recognize that those tiny toadlets have a very low chance of survival to reproductive age, and the adults are our biggest concern. So we need to find road crossing spots where the adults are, which takes more research.
So what we've tried to do is direct the traffic away from these hotspots where they're migrating. You know, that quickly morphed into where we worked with the City of Chilliwack to implement these road closures, which would block off at certain times of the migration portions of the road where they're crossing in the densest numbers, and just let them cross as naturally as possible. So we tried to work as closely with the community as we could. We gave information meetings. I presented a couple times to the community, and made all kinds of maps and information packages. And I visited all the people within the closure zone personally, door to door, to inform them what's happening and why, and what they can do to help. You're about one of the most engaged landowners up here. No. Oh yeah? You guys are out here all the time.
I had no idea what to expect when I started. When you hear that there are going to be thousands of toads crossing the road, I don't think you really understand it until you see it. My job was to stand at the barricade at the road closure and to instruct people on the detour route to take, and also to engage with the public about what was happening with the toad migration. I certainly didn't think that's what amphibian rescuer was going to be, but apparently that's what it is, yeah.
There was a lot of resentment, probably a small proportion of the people who were affected by, say, diverting traffic around this toad migration. And that was pretty hard to deal with. That was very difficult for Steve to have to mollify some of these people, talk to them, deal with other volunteers who were going to get right out of control, mad at these people bashing barricades or taking down signs or purposely driving right over the toads. And you had to be pretty cool to just kind of let that roll off your shoulders.
Yeah, it was tough. I guess I was in an extra odd position, as it might be easy for an outsider to come in and say, this is the goal and this is what we're doing and this is what we want you to do. But when it's your neighbor that comes up and is asking you these types of things, then it makes it a little bit more personal, and you have to go home at the end of the day and live beside them. And you want to make sure that that relationship is maintained and that they're happy and they're informed and they feel respected and they feel that their community isn't being intruded upon. And yeah, it was hard striking that balance.
There were some people who chose to go around or even go through the barricades. And it was certainly a little bit frightening to have cars drive very quickly and very close to you.
Having a passion for wildlife and having a passion for amphibians, including the toads, you really wanted to see what was best for them and have them cross as naturally as possible. But knowing that you're putting people out and that you're the face of that makes it challenging to continue to want to stand there every day and be that face.
So we put a sign, one of these, the other one in the center, because there's toadlets everywhere here. And obviously somebody took it out and threw it into the bushes, because if they hit it, they would have just knocked it flat, but it's like thrown into the bushes. Oh yeah, like you don't think we're gonna see a sign of white? Jerks. Hey, it's still good. Okay, we need this one pounded in. I'll go look for that one.
Do you want to put it here or leave it there?
Okay, well, let's think like an asshole. So most people won't go through here because it's overgrown. And so I think right there.
That's what I was thinking.
Unless I find that one.
Well, then we can take that one and put it here.
But look it. Yeah. See, look where they broke it, right there. Yeah. Okay, so are you gonna put it right here? Well, I guess we'll have to check again.
Yeah.
And look, they tore it. We don't have the stapler gun? Okay, but we have it in my car, so I'll come back and staple it.
It's this perceived threat, yeah.
I don't get it. Like, is it generated through their own guilt or?
Nah, just
or
anger in
they
general.
think that their rights are being taken away, or?
I think that's part of it.
Like, wow. Yeah. Wow. And I went out Friday morning and oh my God. They're here, they're going, like they're going. We headed out, I think it was 9:30-ish, and just started bucketing. It was our TV box, because we're like, we need a big piece of cardboard, so, well, we kind of pack rat a little bit. Why do we keep boxes? We were like, hey, we gotta make it big and we gotta make it noticeable so that people know why we're on the road. And so we wrote this, and then he actually made a whole wooden tripod to put it up, and that sign lasted all the rainy days. Like it lasted like over a week.
Yeah, it was amazing to see how much it actually did slow down traffic.
Over that 4 days, and we think this is, well, it's obvious an underestimation, because there was no way to track all the people that were bucketing this 3 kilometers of the lake, but at least 100,000 toadlets got across the highway. I've been going back constantly, either walking the dog along the highway or driving into the parking areas and checking, are there toads, are there toads?
Are these toads? Are those toads? Good. Look for toads. Where's the toads? Where are they, Ember?
We had people literally just leaning over the barrier and scooping them up because they were stuck on this side. For instance, here's one right here.
And the highway continues to be a nasty source of mortality. And we had some precipitation that weekend. So those 2 events coincided by chance, and that's super bad luck for the toads.
Okay. 2, 4, 6, 7 more toads.
Ten years or so ago, we started petitioning Ministry of Transportation to do something about the highway because so many toads were being killed.
We wanted to find out where the toads were breeding, where they were crossing the highway, how many were getting killed on the highway and where, and possibly construct some underpass structures to get them safely across or under the highway. In 2006, the first underpass was built, and then in the summer of 2014, the Ministry of Transport put in another underpass especially designed for the western toads, so we were really happy about that. There's an infrared beam crossing the floor right here. And if you break the beam, the camera goes off. So this is a system we're trying. It was a challenge putting it in, but so far it seems to be working pretty well. And I'm going to download the card now to see if we have any images on here. The idea with the underpasses is to get some animals under the highway. It won't be 100% fixed. There will always be toads dying on the highway, even if you have some underpasses. The idea is to hopefully have enough animals traveling under the highway that the population can sustain itself. So more is always better. And you want to put them in the right spot because they're very expensive to build. They are using it, and getting any to use them, I think, is a success. But as far as like how many are using it, a percent of the population, proportion, yeah, we don't know.
How's that?
Steve's like the glue that's kept this project together. He's known the toads his whole life. So when the Conservancy first started looking into this, he was super supportive. There were some safety concerns around the road closures.
Some snacks for you in case you get home.
So that was when we got onto the toad tunnel idea. He was the one that originally started collecting the data. So then when we went to go to partners to get funding to do the construction, we were able to take all the data that they had collected and say, this is what's happening, this is how many toads are getting killed on the roads, this is how you can help us. So it was from people like him that all that information came.
Ready to go? Good.
Did a lot of cold, rainy, and wet nighttime monitoring in February and March. Sometimes snowy, sometimes rainy and foggy, and with the intent to GPS thousands of occurrences of the adults as they are migrating to the wetlands to breed and then away from the wetlands. So normally when we get to this point of the monitoring route, this is one of our key migratory corridors. And when you approach this area, everything changes. You can just smell the difference. There's often so many exposed frogs and toads here, you can just smell the flesh. Like they're all just open, being hit by the cars. And it's one of the first things that hits you before you even see it. You can just smell it in the area. Gathering those thousands of GPS points of where they're crossing the roads allowed the Fraser Valley Conservancy to amass that data and look at it spatially and see where what we call the key migratory corridors were. And that is where we decided to focus our efforts for future initiatives and mitigation projects.
Are we going to need any more material on this side? Or we bring everything over?
First day I was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? The toads are on the road. And now, the fencing is starting to work. We actually have the culvert installed finally after so many years. They're going to go into the tunnel, use the tunnel, off the road, not dying. I'm excited. As you can see, there's actually toads going through it right now, so it's already working. Go, toads, go! We're not going to ever be able to stop all of them because they migrate in all directions and we only have, so many crossing structures in place. If you look at the actual where the tunnel is here, there's just not that many dead bodies compared to other places on the road where they've been on the road. So to me, that's really exciting because we know that more of them are making it across alive this year than did last year. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Do you think there's 5?
There's tons more than this.
Tons more than that. Tons more than 10. I think so. Do you see other different colors too? Some green ones and some brown ones. Dark brown ones, they're all different, right?
Some are black.
Some are a little bit black, yeah? Remember how their tadpoles are kind of black?
Mm-hmm. They go under the tunnel so they don't get squished. It makes the toads very safe. And it helps them cross because it goes underneath the road. And the cars go on the road.
For me, to see this happening right now it's pretty special in the sense that I can see that we've come a long way and we've got a lot accomplished. When I got involved with this project, it was many years ago now, I don't even know how many. But at that time, both these ladies were not even born yet, so having them here now is pretty special. They're a part of it every day in the sense that they've taken the values that I had with this project and they've implemented it even over at our own place. I think they're figuring this out at an early age that ecosystems are all around us. It's not just something that's often in distant places. It's something that's in our backyards, and I think this is a good example of it. And that makes me kind of proud.
BC government has spent close to $750,000 to move these animals under the highway, and now the habitat's going to be logged. What was all the money and effort and all this really good stuff? What was it all for? Not only is it unjust to the animal, but that's unjust to me as a taxpayer. So you just used my money to put these animals under the road so I feel good. And now you're going to destroy the habitat and you're going to make me sit here as a resident and witness that. It feels like an absolute betrayal. From that point, it was engaging other biologists, First Nations, local people, different environmental societies, basically just trying to bring a whole lot of people together to say, hey, this is a very tiny area and we really need to save it.
This logging company, this logging crew was going to come and they were going to log their habitat.
They could respect it, and they're choosing to disregard everything and go ahead and log. They're only concerned with their pocketbook.
We are losing so much. And when will their hearts open up to feel sympathy for all the animals around us?
We cannot change the highway. We may be able to put more tunnels under it, but the highway and the traffic is there. What we can change at least is that we know we lose a lot of toads on the highway, but if we can maintain the habitat for the ones that survive so they're stronger and more ability and more numbers, that maybe we can absorb, but the highway is something we have to mitigate. Here, we can log somewhere else. We don't have to log here.
Of course, we have, you know, our awful moments where it's like you feel down, you feel like there's no point. It's like, they're just going to go ahead. It doesn't matter what we do. The government doesn't care. And I don't understand why trying to save an animal generates so much anger in some people. We've asked for nothing other than no new roads, no more logging. This is the one spot the toads have that they're not impacted by humans. Everywhere else around the lake, in the lake, the highway, they're impacted by humans. So why does Summit Lake pump out 1 million toadlets or more every year? Because they have a habitat that's largely intact, where they can grow up, where they can become adults, go back and breed. The cycle continues. So you saw snow up there this year?
I did, like yesterday.
Ooh.
It's easy to see just one value. You know, it's easy to put a price tag on the timber that we see around us, but there's other value that's harder to see. They never look at the minutiae of the ecosystem around it. There's so much going on that you don't normally see unless you look very closely. It all has value, just not necessarily a dollar figure.
These toads have nobody. Like they are literally at our hands. So we can either help them or we can turn our backs and leave them to their demise.
I've spent 40 years studying grizzly bears, and now I'm studying toads here, which you think this kind of cold-blooded amphibian and this giant furred animal with great big teeth and, you know, great big claws, what do they have in common? Because the grizzlies have longer claws than black bears, they're great diggers. And so this plant here has a lily bulb, as with the lily in your garden. These are quite deep. You can see the white upper part here. And sometimes you have to go quite deep to get at them. Here. So that's shaped a little bit like a bear's tooth. And it's very nutritious. Anyhow, I'm not a very good grizzly bear today. Here you have these two very, very totally different species, but with some similar life habits that share this beautiful flower meadows and habitat. And the bears probably sneak down in the moonlight and swim in the lake, you know, when the toads are there. And that has to do with the fact that they both migrate up and down the mountains and hibernate up on this very mountain here, and they coexist together without affecting each other. And yet they're both species at risk. Both are, you know, are different, but have this common vulnerability to human development.
Amphibians are kind of an indicator species or a sentinel species that when things go badly for amphibians, other species are not that far behind, but they're kind of the early warning signal. Lots of species have been going extinct over the last couple of decades and will go extinct over the next 100 years as a result of widespread habitat loss, of just losing the places that they call home. Climate change is emerging as one of the biggest threats facing species, and it's going to compound almost all of the other threats to species. British Columbia is an amazing place to think about extinction, and not because we've had so many extinctions, but rather because we have so much of our fauna left intact. It means that we've got an extra special responsibility to maintain that here.
You could probably pull it over this time. Okay. One lady in, two ladies in. Thank you.
The owl population locally probably is a little better because of me putting up boxes and helping the habitat.
They're fairly big.
By that means many more of them have got a place to nest, and so the population has been assisted, at least, to maintain itself here. But it's only as good as the habitat that's around any site. Should we put a band on them? Yeah?
Maybe Dad could band them.
Okay.
Maybe one of the girls could help.
The work that Steve Clegg does is extremely important. He keeps that connection between landowners and the barn owls alive, and the fact that he comes back year after year is just really, really important. What I am concerned about, where an area has been identified to be developed, and we know there's barn owls there, but there is no legislation, there's no protection in place to make sure that we balance development with protecting green space and also wildlife habitat for species, particularly species at risk, such as the barn owl. You know, it's one of those things, are we going to act when it's too late?
It turns out that only BC and Alberta, only those two provinces, don't have provincial endangered species legislation. The other provinces do. And for British Columbia, that's a real shame because we are the most ecologically diverse province or territory in the entire nation.
One of the main things that a lot of people don't realize is how many species at risk there are. So in British Columbia, there's well over 1,600 species. The highest level, critically imperiled species, there's over 500 of those. And those are defined as species that are in imminent danger of extinction.
It's pathetic. And it's pathetic that we have to go to have a toad war. Where are the toads? to save a little piddly area at Summit Lake. Where are we as a society? Where are our politicians? Where are our leaders if we can't do better than that?
Every species, whether they're a plant or an animal, has a way of speaking to us about how we can be in connection with the land. Every species that we see disappear is a species towards the disappearance of ourselves. And we've done so much damage already that it's time to start looking out for those disappearing species. Regardless of race or religion, a lot of times our values are the same. Our values are not death and destruction. You know, they're very much to look out for one another and to care for what we've been trusted with.
The real battle is up here. It's how all of us think differently. Because the toads aren't doing anything different. The owls aren't doing anything different. It's us and how we think. And it starts with the species defenders thinking about those toads. And that changes how the people think and eventually ends up changing how the society thinks, I believe. And what that change is we need legislation, and we need to make sure that enough of the landscape, even in our cities, remains in a natural kind of way so that we can continue to live on this planet. Good endangered species legislation would allow a citizen to go to their municipal government and say, you cannot approve that housing plan. Because if you do, this species will disappear. And if you think I'm fooling, I'll see you in court and we'll let a judge decide who has the science. It doesn't mean that house building stops. It means that extinction stops.
Ultimately, we need to rethink where we're putting roads. We all drive on roads. We've got increased urban development. We're getting more and more roads put in, but we have to figure out how we can solve this in order to think about other animals and wildlife.
I believe that once we put those pieces in place and actually enable people to act in accordance with their deeply held values, I think we'll see a total transformation in our economy and the way that we live our lives.
The only thing that will solve the toads problem is for our culture to shift its values so that we make room in our world for all these other species.
British Columbia is bigger than Germany and France combined. So there's a lot of territory here. We can exist with these beautiful wild creatures. We can have a wonderful life and a wonderful culture. From the tiniest, most wondrous creature to the largest, we can do it. We live on this huge territory, a relatively small population, very highly educated, very good economy. If we can't pull this off, who can?
I wish that more people were like me. I wanted to conserve and help the planet, and if people did that, it would be way less types of animals going extinct.
Like it takes a community to raise a child. Well, it takes an entire community to also stand for the toads.
There's a growing number of people behind saving this area. We're just going to keep going because that's all we can do. It's funny, people ask, oh, what's your passion in life? And I was like, oh, I don't know really what my passion is, but it turns out it was toads.
They make me happy to see that they're thriving here. I want to fight to make sure that they keep thriving here.
If we do something now, we can bring all these back and make a really big impact.
And don't give up and don't feel like you're just this little tiny person with one voice. A lot more people realize with climate change and global warming that we're in a biodiversity crisis, and we all have to do our part.
I think it creates a real sense of urgency, not only to make sure that we maintain what's left on the landscape, but also to maintain what's left in us. When we lose that kind of fundamental parts of our identity, it's really hard to get that back. So our relationships with the natural world are among the most endangered things at the moment.
We care about life, we care about people, we care about salmon, birds. Why shouldn't we care about a toad?
Toads, they grow on you. And the things that they do just to get to that habitat, you have to respect that. Something so small that plays such a big part in the ecology of the area and in my life now and in a lot of people's lives. We can learn from that. And maybe that's what I've learned, to culture that drive in myself and move it forward. It's in me, it's in all of us. But all you have to do is take that first step. Don't think about what you're gonna do, what you're gonna have to do. One phone call, one email.
You know, you don't have to be a biologist, you don't have to be an ecologist, you don't have to be an environmentalist. You just have to be someone that cares. A big aim of mine right now is just to show people that it's okay to care. I think there's a lot of people waiting in the wings that would like to do conservation-minded things. And if I can be just that one little bit of encouragement to do so, I think I might be doing an all right job.
I was out on the road and I was fearing for my life as traffic was passing me by, and it was only a dream, but I woke up with a sort of a tune in my head, and then the tune went for a day or two, and I imagined myself as a toadlet sitting on the side of the road and trying to guess when the best time would be to hop across the road and get to the other side. I better boogie, I better get across the road. You do the three-toed boogie and you're hopping for your life. You do the three-toed boogie and you're looking to your right and left. You do the three-toed boogie and you're hopping for your life. Well, now here comes a pickup, and he's kicking lots of dust. Well, now here comes a pickup, we must stay till he's past. Well, you better do the hop, hop, honey, you better do it fast. Here we go hopping. You do the three-toed boogie, and you're hopping for your life. Do the three-toed boogie and you're looking to your right and left. You do the three-toed boogie and you're hopping for your life. Here we go, ow! Oh, look at you with your long legs. Here we go again. Whew, I think we made it. Well, now over on the shoulder, waiting for the cars to pass. Over on the shoulder, we must stay and have no fear. You do the three-toed boogie and you're waiting for the coast to clear. You do the three-toed boogie and you're hopping for your life. You do the three-toed boogie and you're looking to your right. You do the three-toed
up again. Yeah. Hopping for your, hopping for your, hopping for your. Wait for it. Life.